Rodney and his machine. Chapter 1. Mr. Bolly, the baker, was busy loading his van with buns and cakes. Rodney, he shouted to his son. Where are you? Rodney was in his room. He was half asleep and half awake. He was looking at the wall and thinking. He was trying to think of a new idea. He wanted to think of something to make his dad's buns the best in town, or something to keep the bread warm in his dad's van. Rodney! shouted his dad again. Rodney jumped up and ran downstairs. Rodney, said Mr. Bolly. Have you forgotten? Today we need to take our buns to the Trelio's tea shop. If Dan and Don Trelios like the buns, they'll sell them for us. They'll like them, Dad, said Rodney. I'm sure. However, Mr. Bolly was not so sure. Dan and Don Trelios were difficult. Everybody knew that. Now, just in case, I'm going to give you an example of difficult. It doesn't only mean hard. It can mean like the food. It is tasty, but if it's worth too much, you won't buy it. This is other where you can say difficult. Everyone knew that. Okay, so let's continue with the story. Everyone knew that. Mr. Bolly loaded the buns into the back of the van and made Rodney sit in the front. Then he started the engine and they drove off. Drove off. Don Trelios was waiting for them at the door of his tea shop. He looked at his watch and looked at the van. He was not a patient man. He was a short man with a long face. He hated wasting time. He never wasted his time by smiling. Don Trelios was in the tea shop dusting some dirty old tables. He looked up and saw Mr. Bolly, but he did not smile. He never smiled and never laughed. Mr. Bolly and Rodney went into the tea shop. Mr. Bolly put two large buns on 2 plates. Don took a small bite. Dan took an even smaller bite. They both looked sad and sorry. Not bad, said Don. Not bad. How much will they cost? Asked Dan. Mr. Bolly told them the price. That's too much, said Dan and Don Trelios together. They're nice buns. They're good buns, but they're too expensive. We have to pay for the tea, and we have to pay for the shop. We have to pay for the chairs and tables. We have to pay to keep them clean. Mr. Bolly sighed and shook his head. Dan and Don Trelios did not want to sell his buns. I can help you, said Rodney. How? asked Dan. Rodney did not know, but he thought quickly. Suddenly he had an idea. I've got a machine. It will keep your tables clean, he said. Don looked at Dan and made a strange face. Then Dan made a strange face back at Don. All right, they said. Bring it to the tea shop and we'll look at it. Chapter 2. When Rodney got back to the bakery, he went straight to his room and started making a clever and wonderful machine. He stayed in his room for days, thinking and working on his new machine. Strange sounds came from his room. At the end of a week, he opened his door. Dad, it works, he shouted. Come and look. Mr. Bolly went to look. He saw a rubbish bin with wheels and bits of wire coming out of it. It had one long arm with a wet sponge on the end of it. Okay. When Rodney switched on the machine, Don moved from side to side. My machine is called Buzz 1, said Rodney happily. The next day they loaded Buzz 1 into the van and took it to the Charlie's tea shop. Don and Dan sat down on two very old chairs. They crossed their arms and looked unhappily at the machine. Are you ready to be surprised? asked Rodney Bolly. Asked Rodney Bolly, and he switched on the machine. Dan and Don were surprised. The machine made a coughing noise and jumped and knocked a plate of food on one of the dirty tables. Half of the food spilled over Don, and the other half spilled over Dan. It made a terrible mess. You fool, shouted Dan. Look at our chouses. It nearly worked, said Rodney quietly. Get out of our tea shop, shouted Don. Get out! Mr. Bolly and Rodney went back to the bakery. Rodney sat and thought for an hour or two. He thought about the plate of food, and he thought about Don and Dan. Then he thought about the dirty old chairs and all the very dirty tables. Then he had a new idea. He stayed in his room again and worked very, very hard for a week. Mr. Bolly heard a lot of strange sounds coming from Rodney's room. Then the strange sounds stopped. Rodney sat and looked at the large tin box with colored lights on the top and wheels on the bottom. There were bits of wire coming out of the sides of the box. There were 3 long metal arms with 3 paintbrushes in different sizes, ends large, medium, and small. Mr. Bolly listened outside the door. He heard Rodney singing. Rodney was painting his new machine. He put a drop of paint on the tin box and a drop on his pajamas. He put a drop on the metal arms and a drop on his cheek. Then Rodney opened his door very quickly and tripped over his dad. Just look at this, Rodney said, jumping up. Mr. Bolly looked. Dad, said Raleigh. This is Buzz 2, the paint machine. Buzz 2, say hello to Dad. The lights on top of Buzz 2 flashed on and off. Hello to you too, said Mr. Botley. The Charlie's tea shop needs nice bright tables, and this machine can paint them for Dan and Don Trillios. Rodney explained it. When I told this machine to do something, it does it. If I say paint the table, it will do it. Rodney had to spell the word paint. If I say the word properly, Buzz 2 will go ahead and paint, explained Rodney. The machine was wonderful and clever. When it heard Rodney's voice, it worked. Shall we try it? Shall we try it? Asked Rodney. Shall I tell Buzz 2 to paint my Shall I tell Buzz 2 to paint my table? As soon as the machine heard the word paint, the metal arm with the large brush began to move. Rodney clapped his hands and said, Stop, Buzz 2, we're not ready yet. The machine stopped. Good, said Mr. Botley. It looks like a good machine this time. There was no more paint, so Rodney hurried into the kitchen and came back with a can of syrup. Syrup is like paint, he said. Buzz 2 won't know the difference between syrup and paint. He poured the syrup into the hole on the top of the tin box and stepped back. Buzz 2, paint the top of the table, said Rodney. The machine began to move again. The lights flashed on and off, and the metal brush and the metal arms put the brushes onto the syrup. Then the brushes began to paint. Soon there was syrup all over Rodney's table, and there was syrup in a lot of other places too. Rodney and his dad had to hide behind a chair until Buzz 2 finished. Now we need a machine to clean up the syrup, said Mr. Botley unhappily. The machine works, Dad, shouted Rodney, jumping up and down in the syrup on the floor. It really works, and it'll work for Dan and Don. It really works. Then they'll be pleased and they'll buy our buns. All right, said his dad, but he did not sound as sure as Rodney. The next day, Mr. Botley went to see Dan and Don. He told them all about Buzz 2, the paint machine. It's a wonderful and clever machine, he said. Dan and Don looked at each other and talked quietly. They did not look very happy. Wonderful and clever? Asked Don. Does it spill food over people? Asked Dan. Mr. Botley answered, No, it doesn't. Now, I'm just letting you to play strict game, but not for long. If you don't remember what I said, if you don't remember about what I said, and why Dan asked, did it spill food over people? If you don't, you need to go back to answer my question. I already finished talking. Okay, so let's continue. Mr. Botley answered. No, it doesn't. All right, said said Dan and Don Trelios. We'll come and look at it. Chapter 3. Don and Dan Trelios went to the bakery that evening. At 7 o'clock, they knocked on the bakery door. Raleigh opened the door and smiled at them as sweetly as he could. They did not smile back at him. Raleigh took them to his bedroom. Mr. Bolly was waiting for them. He looked worried. He was holding a new can of red paint. Raleigh poured the red paint into the hole on the top of Bus 2 and switched it on. Bus 2, paint the table, said Rodney. The big brush moved up and down from side to side. Bus 2 painted the top of the table bright red in 2 minutes. Don looked at Bus 2. His eyes got bigger. He looked very interested. Wonderful, he said. This machine can save us a lot of money at the tea shop. Then Don started to think. Does it only paint tables? He asked. Can it paint chairs too? Oh yes, it can paint chairs, said Raleigh. Watch. Raleigh quickly picked up a chair and put it in front of the paint machine. Then he said, Bus 2, paint the chair. Bus 2's lights flashed on and off, but it did not move. It doesn't work, said Dan and Don together. It doesn't understand, said Rodney. It's only painted the tops of tables before. Raleigh looked at the paint machine and said, Bus 2, paint the... Okay, sorry. Bus 2, paint the legs. Paint the legs. This time the paint machine began to move. It used the small brush and started painting the nearest leg very quickly. Very quickly. Okay. Oh no, shouted Raleigh. This isn't right, said Mr. Botley. It was not right. Bus 2 was painting the nearest leg, but the nearest leg was not a chair leg. It was Don's leg. Don screamed like a pig and tried to move away as quickly as he could. However, Bus 2 followed him and continued painting. One of Don's legs was already red, and the machine wanted to paint the other one. Help! Help! Shouted Don Trelios. Yes. Okay. Okay. It's too funny. Because it's okay. Yes, of course, Sir Rodney. Bus 2. Paint the back. Bus 2 stopped painting Don's legs and started painting his back. No, shouted Mr. Botley. Paint the back of the chair. Stop, Bus 2, stop. However, it was too late. Don Trelios had 2 red legs and 1 red back. He did not look very happy. Oh no, shouted Rodney. Oh no, said Rodney. He could not say anything else. Then he heard a strange sound. He looked at Bus 2, but the sound was not coming from the paint machine. It was coming from Dan. Tears were running down his face and he was laughing. This was very unusual for Dan. I've never seen Dan laugh before, said Mr. Botley. I've never seen anything so funny, said Dan, laughing loudly. Oh, doll, it is so funny. Look at yourself. Don looked at his red legs and his wet back with his fingers. It's not funny, he screamed. It's not funny at all. It is, shouted Dan, laughing more loudly. Really? Said Don angrily. Then he pointed at Dan and shouted, Buzz to paint the ears. The machine made a loud noise and its lights flashed on and off. Then it began to paint Dan. Ouch! Shouted Dan. Ouch! 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 He tried to move away, but the paint machine was faster than him. He had one red ear, then he had two red ears. Now, Buzz 2, shouted Dan. Paint the nose! Buzz 2 painted Dan's nose. Ouch! Shouted Dan. Ouch! 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 Then Don's mouth began to move very slowly. He made a little noise. Then he laughed loudly. Dan was laughing too. Ha ha! Laughed Dan. What a wonderful machine. We must have one, Don. Yes, we must have, agreed Don, laughing. We must also have a lot of Mr. Botley's buns to sell too. So Rodney and Mr. Botley took Buzz 2 to the Cheerios tea shop. It was very popular. When Mr. Botley and Rodney brought their buns to the tea shop, they liked to stay and watch Buzz 2 working. It's a wonderful and clever machine, Rodney said Mr. Botley. Well done. The paint machine was very successful. The tables and the chairs and the Cheerios tea shop were painted several times. Of course, sometimes the machine made a mistake and it painted Dan or Don. Of course, everyone makes mistakes except God. And it painted Dan or Don. Okay, so now let's continue. And it painted Dan or Don. This made it everyone cheer and clap and laugh loudly. People were often laughing in the Cheerios tea shop. However, no one laughed louder or longer than Dan and Don themselves. So, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you like it. Is it funny? Because, Raleigh, is he clever? Well, do you agree with me? Well, I think he is quite clever. What about you? Did you think about it? Bye-bye. See you later. See you later. So I'll give you some time to think. Bye-bye.